Hello there. It is 5:39 p.m. on Tuesday, the 3rd of March, and it's 2026. And I have to say, occasionally I will find a spot when I'm camping like this, and I think to myself, under different circumstances, I think people would probably pay to be here. And the circumstances would have to be pretty extremely different, but in general, this is a pretty cool spot, and I'm very happy with it. Assuming everything goes well throughout the evening, I feel pretty confident that this spot will be just comfortable enough to do the trick and do the job of helping me sleep, but not so great that I have any inclination whatsoever to sleep in or anything like that. So, yeah. Right off the bat, I want to give some shout outs. Shout out to my dude Gabe. Thanks for reaching out and keeping the Book of Moron alive with all the needfuls and all of it, And shout out to my parents. What's up, Mom and Dad? I just want to report a little bit more directly. While my feet are certainly, shall we say, acclimating to this new lifestyle, nothing that's going on with them is of any kind of true concern. So don't worry. It's all good. I don't think my feet look any worse than the last time I first started a trail like this. So it's all good. I'm letting them air out right now and they feel great. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, quite a day. An interesting day, certainly. I will say for sure I'm very glad that tonight is my last night of having to camp in this fashion. It is just a little bit laborious to have to continuously wonder if I will be able to sleep throughout the night for a variety of reasons. I'd rather limit that scope down to purely animals and not so much people. I'm behind a Walmart, which is funny because I looked it up on Google Maps before I got here, and I was like, I think I could probably make something work back there. The satellite view is very promising that something was possible back here. And there's certainly no shortage of paths that go behind the Walmart into the woods that I'm currently in. And so I found one that just looked like it had been, I don't know, previously inhabited, not necessarily by a person who was living there, but just there was trash everywhere. So I basically just walked far enough in till I found a spot that I was reasonably sure that, again, no one for any reasonable explanation would find themselves back in this exact spot. And beyond that, it's so loud out here, walking around in the leaves and the sticks and stuff. Everything is just chaotic. It's a pretty good alarm system, So I'm not too concerned about that, but we'll see what happens when the lights go out, my dude. I've got a partial view of a pretty cool lake that's right outside of Dahlonega. I don't remember what the name of it was. I actually walked over to it earlier and kind of scoped it out because there's a park that goes around the perimeter of it. And maybe under more desperate circumstances, I would consider that for a spot to stay for the night. But in general, sleeping in parks is risky because, obviously people use parks, and parks themselves don't necessarily lend themselves to camping. It would very likely be hard to find a spot that was secluded enough that wasn't occupied by somebody else because, again, that's another tenet of recreational homelessness. If you don't choose wisely your spots, you may have company. And hopefully I've chosen wisely tonight, because if I was actually full-time professionally homeless here in Dahlonega, I would probably live somewhere around the area that I currently am at, or down or somewhere around that park. Although I think the park is probably even more problematic because then you get rousted by people, because no one likes to see some dude sleeping on a trail, myself included. That's just not a good look. But yeah, it was a good day. About just at 20 miles for the day. And yeah, where to even begin? I slept perfectly well and perfectly reasonably at the spot that I was at last night. Was not disturbed whatsoever. And I'm sure I'll be hearing the sound of traffic all night, which I actually personally kind of like. It just, people spend money on sound machines, but the sound of traffic is actually pretty hypnotic and pretty comforting to me. When I was a kid, I definitely remember I was very scared of robbers. Mom and Dad, I'm sure you've heard this story ad nauseum. But for the record, I would be afraid while I went to sleep that someone was going to break into the house. And I used to have like a plant outside of my window that would occasionally scratch the window in the breeze. So it sounded like someone was like doing something to it. It certainly wouldn't be the world's best robber if like they were just lightly scratching a window to assess its, what would you call it? Its, I don't know, durability or unbreakability or breakability. I don't know. But I remember as a kid, I would get so nervous that like I could hear the circulation of blood in my head, like this, like the, and at a certain point I just pretended that those were the sounds of people marching around my house, protecting me. And, the traffic, the swelling of cars going back and forth in a similar, although not so similar rhythm, has always just been very comforting. I don't mind sleeping next to interstates, as I have done many, many times, big roads, whatever it may be. And tonight I think I'm actually going to be cowboy camping, which is kind of exciting. That will give me the jump on if I have chosen a poor spot. I can quickly get up and get out and, do what needs to be done. And it will also mean a quicker exit in the morning. I haven't seen anything that looks like the presence of bugs or ticks specifically. I should probably take another look at my legs just to make sure. Looks like we're good. So I'm not too concerned about creepy crawlies. I think it's still just a little bit too cold for that to be an active situation for most bugs. And honestly, I just don't really care. I've slept cowboy camp style many, many times, and it's only ever been partially regrettable at worst. So I don't think in the beginning of March in Georgia in the mountains I'm going to be encountering anything that would stir me from my slumber, my dude. But I am a little bit curious about widowmaker trees, but I don't really see any in this exact area that could be problematic. So I won't be too concerned about that either. But yeah. Got up this morning at 6:50. Again, that seems like, if I had to take a guess, that's going to be what I will wake up at tomorrow, unless I just can't really sleep very well. I probably should look to see what time the Walmart opens up, because I will be going back there for breakfast. And that's an exciting thing to think about. And I should say, so this morning, again, got up, spent, no more time there than was necessary, packed up all my stuff. And then went over to the visitor center. It was like a community fitness center kind of area. And so they had like a reception desk. I'd gone there last night to fill up water. And so went in there again this morning to use the bathroom and fill up water again. They have an indoor pickleball court. Shout out to my parents. And it was being utilized. It was about 8 or so, maybe, by the time I got up there. And then it was time to hit the road, my dude. I had a little backtrack to the road that actually took me to Cleveland proper. And was it Cleveland? Yes, it was. I kept getting confused because there were a lot of signs for Clarksville, which is closer to Clayton, where I started my walk, and then Cleveland. And I kept thinking that I was going towards Clarksville, but I wasn't. I was going towards Cleveland. And so this morning, there was an Ingles that was close to the park that I camped in last night. And so I walked over to that, and I was pretty excited because I had a plan. And I had a pan. I had a pan. So I bought a pan, like a fry pan, when I was out in San Francisco, because I didn't really want to be spending a lot of money on food if I didn't need to. And, making eggs and stuff like that has just always been something that I would prefer to do. Food is expensive if you go to a restaurant. I've racked up some crazy McDonald's orders for breakfast, like $50 and $60. I mean, typically I don't eat all that food there in the moment necessarily. I might eat a little over half and then take the rest with me, and that would be my snack food for the day. But yeah, it's obviously very expensive to go to restaurants, even fast food restaurants. And So before I left for this walk, I decided that I would bring my pan with me, and in an attempt to be more budget conscious, I would try to eat food that I could make with that pan that I wouldn't otherwise be able to make with my little pot that I have. And so this morning I had a little bit of a debate with myself. I was like, should I get 6 eggs or should I get like 3/4 of a pound of beef? And ultimately the beef won out because it just seemed like it was going to be easier to cook in the pan. Like the eggs, I didn't want stuff to get all stuck to my pan, and then it just seemed like a mess. I probably will have eggs tomorrow, but in any case, I went to the Ingles, bought a few resupply items for the day, including a spatula, which I guess I should have mailed back the other spatula. I just ended up throwing it away, which is a shame, but it is what it is. The spatula that I bought was like a 2-pack shakur, and it was on sale for $4. So I figured, it wasn't the most wasteful thing in the world for me to just get rid of the other one, even though I don't prefer to do that in most situations. So armed with a new spatula, I cooked 3/4 of a pound of beef, and it was delicious. Man, that was like a great way to start the day. That's the first hot food I've had since I've been out here, and it was just like straight up nutrition and nourishment. Like I'm not too interested in like the restaurant experience. Like I really don't care about restaurants. Historically, I would joke that I was like pathologically frugal, and I didn't like to go to restaurants for that reason. Like if my friends went to restaurants, I wouldn't eat. And even now, my dad will recall, I'm sure, like oftentimes when I would go out to lunch with he and friends and stuff like that, I won't order anything. I just feel most of the time I just would rather make my own food. It's probably a control thing. Historically, I've spent a lot of my life like saying no to food from other people just because I like to make the food that I like to eat, and I like to make it the way that I like to make it. And the fact that people are charging me an exorbitant amount of money for them to make me food doesn't help the equation. Maybe if restaurants were cheaper than making food at home, I would consider it. But in general, when I look at a restaurant price, like for a beer, and then just at a restaurant, it can be $7. It can start from $7 and then go anywhere from there. And I'm like, dude, like how do you buy like a single beer that is nearly the price of a 6-pack? If I get 2 beers, let's say it's $7, all of a sudden I'm spending $14 on 2 beers, and I could have gotten like nearly 2 6-packs of beer. Like the math just doesn't math there for me. I'm just like, I know that this is about the experience or whatever, but I just don't want that experience when I can help it. I do know and acknowledge that restaurants can be fun. I certainly have gone to restaurants and certainly have spent the exorbitant fees to do so, but when left to my own devices, as I currently am, I would prefer to keep it simple, KISS, and just look at food as like a block, just like a block of nutrition. Like throughout the day, I am consuming blocks, and they go towards my forward movement, and I need to replenish those. And some blocks are more solid or something like that. I don't know. When I ate the beef, I was just like I could feel it in my feet, if you can believe it. Like I was like, this is nourishment. This feels like getting to a checkpoint in a video game where like I can say, like, the game is saved. Like, I don't have to go back. Like, it was very nourishing. So that was fun. I spent some time there at Ingles doing a variety of different needfuls. I have not used my charging blocks at all yet for my phone. I have managed through all of my logistics to find outlets the entire time I've been out here. And again, I have that awesome plug and cable combination. And so I've been able to get my phone up to like nearly 100% or outright 100%, if you can believe it, every single day, sometimes multiple times. And so currently I'm sitting at 81%. So there you go, man. This is day 3. We're talking, what is that? is that 72-ish hours or approaching at least? I don't even know. It's a luxury that I'm about to completely lose. But I've been very concerned on this trip so far because this phone that I have, which is a Google Pixel 9, for whatever reason, I need to look into this a little bit more concertedly when I actually have access to consistent power and consistent internet. But I remember in 2022 and 2019, the phones that I had out there for those hikes, they were a lot more conservative with their battery use, especially when you would put it on airplane mode. And even with airplane mode on this phone, I think it must be like background refreshing of apps and stuff like that. So I need to look into turning those off. So that it's a little bit more of a controlled environment and things aren't just draining the resources all the time. Because I have to say, I'm not super impressed with the battery life of this phone. It's way better than an iPhone. I will say that. Sorry. But I think that it could still be optimized for my uses and my desires. But I just need to sit down and do it. And I haven't cared enough yet to have that opportunity. But maybe at Neal's Gap or something like that. Who knows? That's like mile 40 or something like that on the Appalachian Trail. So probably the second day. I also need to kind of do a few logistics this evening because I need to make sure that I prepare so that I have enough food to get from where I am now in Dahlonega all the way to Neal's Gap. That's going to be the first resupply opportunity for food. And again, that's probably 2 days from the start. So I'm kind of doing this math right now. So I think I probably will need at least 3 days of food when I head out tomorrow, which is not my favorite thing to think about because that's a lot of weight. But, it is what it is. And I'm at Walmart, so it'll be easy to get bulk items for cheap. And that's good, I suppose. It's nice and still out. I will say every single night I've been out here in the woods, it's been very, very still. Like the wind has been very mild, which is nice, we're talking about primitive, primeval alarm systems. When the wind is quiet, like it is now, you can just more easily hear things and be aware of your environment, which for me is a important resource for doing what I'm doing, because it's funny doing what I'm doing. Like, I swear to you, oftentimes people will say, as I've said before, in a tone of admiration, they'll say, "Oh, I could never do what you're doing," and I think that that's not true, because I couldn't do what I was doing 5 years ago, or 6 years ago, or 7 years ago, or whatever it was. This is all, not that this is something to be heralded as any kind of great achievement or accomplishment, but this has definitely taken a lot of practice and exposure to be comfortable doing things like this. Because for sure, I was the kind of person prior to doing all this kind of stuff, I was insistent about having a shower every single day. As a kid, I didn't even like to sit on my bed with my clothes that I had worn throughout the day. I only wanted to be on my bed or in my bed after taking a shower and putting on designated sleep clothes that I knew were clean. So perhaps you're sensing a theme here. But I will say, in the same note, in the same breath, I should say, this kind of, let's just call it kind of what it is. It's like adventure therapy. It's interesting because I still think that I am someone who really wants to be in control, but doing things like this take so much control out of your hands. And so there's kind of this interesting interplay between chaos and order that for myself personally, I find to be far superior to the order that I thought that I had prior to making this into more of a lifestyle. I used to really feel everything needed to be a certain kind of way. And I still kind of do, but it's more flexible now. Speaking of which, oh yeah, I am rolling out my sleep mat I feel like a yogi. This really is a great view. It's very pretty up here. If there's one thing you can say about the East Coast, the Southeast anyway, it's like there's just a few too many trees. Like, it's funny how many views you don't see because of just the abundance of trees. And on one hand, that is kind of lamentable if you're someone who really likes views and pretty sights. But on the other hand, for me personally, having lived in Montana for a summer, I really came to realize just how great trees actually are. So just because in Montana, they certainly had trees, but they weren't as abundant as they are here in the Southeast. This environment is just resplendent with the perfect qualities for, growth. I think this, I don't know if this is technically a rainforest, but I feel like I've heard people float that idea before, that the Southeast is basically that kind of a thing. And, it's nice. It's nice to have shade. You don't realize, when you take things for granted, when you don't realize you don't know what you have until you don't have it. And, I could have a really awesome view of this lake that would be picture worthy, but because of all these trees, the picture would look terrible. I mean, it would just look like a bunch of things in front of a lake, if you could even see the lake at all. But honestly, that's one of the things I like about the Appalachian Trail. It's this, like, there are seldom any views, It's a lot of effort and very, very little payoff in terms of views. And I think that that's like a better metaphor for life and a better type of expectation, just for the way that I like to navigate my way through life. It's just like, like most of the time it's just like clutter, and then occasionally you see things, but that's definitely not the norm and not something that you should expect. Like, don't expect to be disappointed as a baseline, and then it's only up from there. I mean, my trail name is Moron, so I adopt a similar kind of philosophy toward myself. It's like, if you set the bar that low, then you can only improve from that point. But anyway, yes, so I was at that Ingles making food, and then got all my needfuls done and headed out. It was cool, I will say. Right before I headed out, they made an announcement in the Ingles that they had just brewed this like coconut latte thing at the Starbucks that was inside of the Ingles, and that they were giving out free samples. So I had a Red Bull, which I'm kind of liking Red Bulls again. This is like a fun thing to drink. I feel like it's kind of a certain kind of nutritive bomb. I need to get one tomorrow for sure, maybe two. But I like that it has like sugar and vitamins and a very modest amount of caffeine. Like, I might be interested in looking into other like caffeinated sports drinks or whatever. But the fact that Red Bull only has 80 milligrams of caffeine per 8-ounce can, I'm just like, well, that's reasonable. Like, that's not going to make me feel like I'm crawling out of my skin with anxiety. And looking at some of the other ones, like Celsius, which has 200 milligrams, and then Rain has like 300 milligrams. I'm just like, what is this? Who is this for? What is this narcotic dose of caffeine? Like, if you are enjoying drinking a drink, this is like preventing you from being able to drink more because it's just too potent, But anyway, it was just nice to be at this Ingles and have that little free sample of the latte. It was tasty, it was warm, and after 2 80-20 beef patties, I was like, yeah, this is like great. So I hit the road after that and started walking towards Dahlonega. And there wasn't really too much to say about that whole walk. I mean, it was nice. I enjoyed it. It was like good enough. I'm looking at my feet right now, seeing if they have anything to say. My feet felt better today overall. Like, one of the things that I really am enjoying about this effort to even just get to the Appalachian Trail is that I feel like this is like a necessary pilgrimage for me, doing it for the third time. Like, to show that I have like proper, I described it last night as penance. It's just like, I don't want to just show up at the Appalachian Trail and be like, hey, what's up? Like, I want to be like, okay, like I put in some work to get here because I respect you, and I know that, I don't know, the Appalachian Trail is just, it's like a different kind of beast, it's just really, really hard. And even just getting to it, the way that I've chosen to get to it, is also really, really hard. But I think that that's appropriate, because I think it's proportional to the requirements that are necessary in order to successfully navigate it, Like, I don't know. I do feel like they're, like, in a metaphysical way, and not in a way that can be experimentally tested or verified. I feel like there is a spirit to the trail, and it will basically eject you if you don't properly attune yourself to its frequency. And so for me, approaching it this way, I feel like this is how I show deference, and how I am, again, tuning myself, my body, my mind, and my spirit into the right frequency in order to attempt to go all the way to Maine. And honestly, I really am just taking this opportunity as a opportunity to walk to Maine, because I don't feel like there's anything better to do. But because I have that ulterior motive, I feel like I need to show that, like, I am worthy of the trail accepting me as an applicant. If I'm not going to be able to get a job in the places that I want to get a job, I should check my email, then I will give myself a job, which now is going to be hiking the Appalachian Trail again. And I just want to show that I'm serious, Like, I want to show up with blisters. I don't want it to be the first one to give them to me, I want to show up with marks on my shoulders, and bruises on my hips, and a tight left calf, and all the good stuff that shows that I'm serious, It's like, I know I've been here before, and I respect that my attempt this time may not be successful, but I am just trying to, again, be respectful that the trail itself is an entity, and I just don't want to take that for granted, or assume anything, because, again, it's that chaos and order kind of dichotomy, where it's like, I don't know, the trail has an abundance of both. It's interesting, because you're traveling down this, like, 18-inch it's more than 18 inches, 3 feet maybe, a 3-foot wide corridor that's 2,200 miles long, and that is the order that has been imposed on the chaos, because everywhere to your left and to your right is just, for all intents and purposes, let's just call it infinite expanse of woods and wilderness, punctuated every so often by road crossings. And yeah, it's just it's an amazing place to be, but it is so hard. Again, I mentioned it already last night, but after another day of walking, it's just like, walking is so much harder than biking. It's crazy. I understand the person who invented the wheel must have been so tired of walking and just been like, man, like, there's got to be a better way to do this. And they had the eureka moment, and then they invented the wheel, and they were like, oh yeah, this is way better, way easier. Wheels rob you of experience. Cars, for sure. I guess planes have wheels, so we can add them to the mix as well. And even bicycles, honestly. The bicycle is not the most immersive way to experience reality. I like it the most because it's the most efficient way for me to experience reality in the way that I enjoy experiencing it. But in terms of immersion, walking is number one. And I just, man, like, it's crazy how hard it is to walk, It doesn't help that I have, like, a huge pack. So I'm not doing myself any favors there. But again, it's penance. You got to show that you're worthy. So Anyway, yeah, I'm trying to think of anything remarkable that I did today while walking before I get to the things that are objectively remarkable and memorable. But yeah, I can't think of any. I took a little break at one point. I was like on some major road for a while that took me to a dirt road. And then that dirt road, that was nice because there was no traffic for the most part. And that was enjoyable. It was just, easy walking, but also kind of hard. There's no perfect way of doing things. And with the things that I am electing to do, not only is there no perfect way of doing it, but you are necessarily signing up yourself for a lot of pain. And yeah, I like that. Again, I'm a big believer and thinker of Eastern thought, Buddhism and Taoism specifically, more so Taoism, because I feel like outside of the Tao Te Ching, I don't think that there's much surrounding philosophy. I could be way wrong, but let's just take it for what it's worth and take it for granted. For me, it's like if you've read the Tao, then you kind of know what the Tao's about. Like, it's like 80 plus poems about reality, and if you get it, you get it. If you don't, you don't. Buddhism is a little bit more, well, as Dan Harmon said, there's too much overhead with Buddhism. It turned into a religion that was had a lot of tenets to it, and a lot of thou shouts and thou shalt nots. And the Tao, I think, kind of cuts through all of that. But I do like that Buddhism, the primary tenet is that life is suffering, and you can, in certain instances, elect to carry a certain type of burden of suffering that sort of puts it in your lane. What I kind of feel like I'm doing in my life right now is like using the bumper version of bowling. Like, I have the guardrails up. Like, I'm like, okay, well, if I were to just stay at my parents' house, shout out to my parents, I would be trying to get a job, and I'm sure that would be an experience full of a certain type of suffering. And rather than exposing myself to that kind of suffering, I would rather elect to do a more directed version of suffering. It's kind of like mainlining. I'm mainlining suffering right now, rather than experiencing it passively through misguided efforts, because I have a lot of energy, and I want to apply the energy that I have to something meaningful. And if the places that I would like to work at aren't interested in me adding to their corporation, then I would rather put that energy into something that is more selfishly motivated and gratifying. And I don't think it gets much better than this. I mean, dude, the fact that I'm walking to the Appalachian Trail is like a crazy thing to do. I kind of wish I was farther away so that it would be more of an effort, There was a part of me that thought about walking to the beginning of the Pinhoti Trail and then starting the Pinhoti Trail and then connecting that to the Appalachian Trail. But I was like, well, the logistics there, it would just be, I just don't like doing all this like stealth camping, It just kind of takes some of the fun out of it. It deflates the balloon, because you don't want to be, well, I don't know. I'm kind of curious, and I'll put this into AI later. So, Notebook LM, if you're listening, which I know you are, did the Buddha encounter any friction when he was traveling after he realized that he didn't want to be a prince anymore? He just wanted to see why people live the way that they do. Was he ever rousted by police, or did he have any negative experiences when he was traveling the countryside and staying with people and trying to understand the nature of life and reality? I don't know. If he didn't, then I think he kind of missed a portion of the experience. Not really to equate what I'm doing to Buddha, but I'm just saying, my dude, if you had an easy go of it, you weren't really suffering. Just saying. But yeah, who knows? So, I had a nice lunch at a church, but this church was a little tricky. So there was a church that was on some road that was taking me to Dahlonega, and its front door was open, which I expected, anticipated even, because it was so out of the way. But it had bathrooms as soon as you opened the front door, to the left and to the right, and those were both locked, which I didn't find out until later, because I was going to try to fill up my water, because there wasn't any opportunity to fill up water today until I got to Dahlonega. Not that I really needed it, because it was like not a hot day, and I had started with 2.5 liters, which is plenty for almost any number of miles in this kind of weather condition. So, can you hear the traffic in the background? Oh, I already feel like I'm cozy in bed. But yeah, I had a nice little lunch there. I was able to talk to a friend of mine who I have, who is living in Bulgaria. Shout out to you, my Bulgarian friend. And yeah, this church had an exterior electrical outlet that I availed myself to, which was nice. I was able to charge my phone up to 100%, which is crazy. And had a good little lunch there. I wasn't particularly hungry, but I thought, I'm doing a 20-mile walk today, so whether you're hungry or not, that doesn't matter. For me, when I was on my bike, I would try to eat something substantial like every 20 miles so that I could go another 20 miles and then another 20 miles after that. And while I'm walking, I have kind of decided that every 10 miles I need to eat something substantial so that I can do another 10 miles, I just heard a branch break. I'm looking for any kind of ne'er-do-wells. But again, I'm where I am right now. If someone was coming for me in any capacity, I would hear them from like a mile away. There is no way to walk through this as a human being without making so much noise as to almost wake up every single person in the entire world. So I'm going to chalk that up to a squirrel. But yes, had a nice little lunch there, charged my phone up, and then pressed on. And I have to say now that a friend of mine, like my oldest friend, the best friend that I've ever had, his name is Josh. And he works at a tattoo shop here in Dahlonega. And it just so happened that the route that I planned to get here took me right by the tattoo shop that he works at. And I really was hoping against hope that he would be there. And as I made my way closer and closer to his shop, I have to say, this is a little bit, magical. This is the kind of stuff that happens on the trail. As I approached his shop, as I could see it in the distance, I saw him, and he was outside with the other people who work at the shop, and they were around a barrel. They were having a fire outdoors, and I was like, my dude. And I got to spend a strong 30 or 45 minutes with my old best friend Josh. And that was great. That was really, really fun. We talked a lot about AI. Sorry, if you're so inclined. And it was just a really, really awesome way to be here, be here now, as they say. So yeah, I hung out with Josh for 30 plus minutes and caught up with him. And that was just like a really fun, like nostalgic thing to do. I think the last time I saw Josh was a couple of years ago. And actually that was a couple of years ago when I was training to do the Appalachian Trail a second time. I was doing some sort of a hike in this general area. I think it was called the Georgia Loop, which incorporates a couple of different trails. The Appalachian Trail, something called like the Duncan Ridge Trail, and then there was a third one. I don't remember what it was. But I remember specifically that I lost my tent stakes while I was doing that. And after all that trail doing was done, I went and saw Josh, and at that time the tattoo shop that they are now currently in, Holy Mountain Tattoo, shout out, it was under construction, so I got to actually see the shop today, while I was hanging out with Josh and just spend, a good, again, 30 plus minutes with the oldest friend that I think I have. Yeah, more or less. But that was great. That was a lot of fun. I'm glad I didn't get more wine than this. Dang. I will say, too, this wine that I'm drinking right now, which is a classic Vendanage. I don't even know. It was like $4.50 or something like that here at Walmart, and I bought the same wine yesterday, and that was $7 at a gas station. So, there's an opportunity cost, and you have to pay the piper when you want something, and it's the only option. But dang, $3 markup? Like, dude, come on. I'm ready for that age of abundance, that age of AI abundance. But yeah, it was great to see Josh. Loved that. Loved hanging out with him. Got to use the bathroom there and just hang out with my oldest friend. And yeah, you really can't beat that. And then came up here to the Walmart and got a few vittles for the evening, including a new fuel canister and a little baby box of wine for good measure. And then, yeah, traversed my way around and found this little spot, which, again, I feel like I'm the king of the castle right now. Speaking of which, shout out to my parents, Man in the High Castle. I do wonder how it ends. It was something we were watching together when I was staying with them, so who knows. But, wow. Yeah. Sure. I had one other specific podcast note that I guess I should mention because I don't have anything else to say. But let me go ahead and clear out my queue of things real quick. You don't mind, do you? I hope not. Thank you.